Hello, all. Vanessa Hogle here again. Um, it's been a very interesting week. I've done a couple of shows, one of them being mine with Mike Ricksecker on skepticism and the paranormal. Um, different viewpoints from being a medium or a psychic to a skeptic to a paranormal investigator. And it's been enlightening. It's been very enlightening. I thoroughly enjoyed both shows. I love the interaction and the commentary and the back and forth between everybody because it really does help us understand each other a little bit better. Um, some of it I didn't agree with. Some of it I didn't agree with. One did kind of stick in my craw. you know, um, you know, I was giving an example of one of the readings that I've done for a particular group, and it was brought up that maybe I used a Bluetooth to do it. Don't own one. I guess you can do that on the phone. I guess. I don't know how. And they're like 4,000 miles away. The group that I was working with, they're in England. So but even though that kind of irritated me, and even though it kind of, I'm going to be honest, it kind of pissed me off a little bit. I do understand where the disbelief can come from because I have to admit, and I mean, I've called people out for being fake too. I truly have. And especially, well, not especially, only when I've had proof, you know, like if they've used my readings, you know, that I will call somebody out on that when they're taking credit for something I've done. Um, or when the way that they do things are questionable. If they use scare tactics or um, any type of manipulation. We all know I don't agree with that. Um, but like I said, it's been enlightening. It's been enlightening, and you know, um, again, I did thoroughly enjoy it, but it's really stayed in my head. Since doing that last night and the night before, and although I completely agree with bringing science into it. Again, like I said on both shows, as a checks and balances kind of system, to see what we can prove and what we can't prove, but it kind of supports the what we can prove and vice versa. I also know that science isn't infallible, to a certain degree. I mean, not in the way y'all think. Um, it was the situation was given to me, well, what would it be? How would I look at it if four psychics were brought into a location? We're given no information about it, and one psychic was able to get, a fairly significant amount of information, specific information, not the generalizations and things like that. I mean, when when you when you do a reading, you want to be as on point as you possibly can, regardless of how ridiculous the information seems to be that you're being given. But let's say there were four in a location, and one person gets a decent amount of information and all can be verified, but the other three didn't, or got information that didn't mesh with each other, I guess, for the lack of a better way of putting it. Um, would that make that test, inaccurate in any way? Would it be a success? Would it be a failure? Because I guess you would be looking at it as a control group. And I disagreed during the show. I'm like, no, if one person, even one, gets specific information from somebody who is deceased, that can be verified and validated. If it even happens just once, then that in and of itself can very well prove paranormal activity. Period. I mean, I believe, and I could get this name wrong, but it's like a disease. I believe there's a disease called RPI deficiency. I think that's what it's called. It's the rarest disease in the world. Only one person has it, only one documented case. Does it make it not exist because it's only one? Does it make it any less important because only one person has it? I don't think so. Okay. And when it comes to putting multiple psychics in a location and using them as a test group, you have to ask yourself, not every psychic has the same ability. And I think that is where we're really veering off where we should be. And that is assuming everyone who speaks to the deceased is the same. I might be able to do something that somebody else can't. Somebody else may be able to do something I can't. I mean, I could walk into a location and totally vibe with whoever is there, and they would want to talk to me all night long. Or I could walk in and I would be the last person in the world they want to talk to, but the person who's with me, they might want to talk to them all night long. It's not we don't control that. I could walk into some place and get absolutely nothing because I'm not feeling it. I'm not the one they want to talk to. But my friend Gwen could walk in and get all kinds of information in the world that could be completely verified. And I mean, when I say that, understand, I mean going in to a location that you know nothing about. Nothing about. Okay. Yeah, because I mean that's how I roll. You can ask any team I've worked with. I mean, that's how I roll. I don't have any information from the get-go at all. I go in completely blind. And so that's how they're able to take what I give them and actually look at it with some merit. That they know that I didn't get it off the internet. And there's always gonna be that just knows that you have gotten your information off the internet because of the day and age of Google. I suppose you could if you knew where you were going. If you don't know where you're going and you're not the person who's driving and no one's giving you any information, how can you know? How can you Google it? I'll give you my best example for those who haven't read my books. I was going to be taken to a location here in well, I know now here it was in Oklahoma. I was going to be taken to a location to do a reading to see what I got on the place. And all I was told was El Dorado. Could have been El Dorado, Kansas. Could have been El Dorado, Oklahoma. Could have been El Dorado, Texas. I basically had to be free for 2 days. So could have been anywhere. I mean, they didn't tell me how long it was going to take to get there. They didn't tell me anything. They gave me a 2-week head start. And for those 2 weeks, I filled up in a notebook everything that I had gotten from it. And so much of it made no sense. No sense whatsoever. But I had to assume it was valid because I was seeing it. So I put it all down in the notebook. And as we're driving, again, I'm in the back seat. People are looking in the notebook and everything and kind of familiarizing themselves with everything that I put in. And we get to the town. It did end up being in Oklahoma. We get to the town and it all started. Everything that I was putting in the notebook was starting to come into play and people were seeing it and it made a lot of sense. And the place that we were going was a private residence. So even if I would have wanted to look it up, wouldn't have done me a damn bit of good. it would have just been, hey, here's Joe Blow's address. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way, y'all. I mean, at least not for me. I'm not going to put that out there that there aren't psychics or mediums that do that, because I am sure there are. I've known a few. I don't hang with them. Okay. I've been compared to a few. I've been used as the gauge against some to see who got what without any information. So, I mean, I know it exists. I know it exists. But it isn't, it's the exception, not the rule, pretty much. I have to give the benefit of the doubt to many psychics out there and hope that they're on the up and up, unless I hear otherwise. Otherwise, I'm just as bad as anybody else, pointing fingers and saying you're faking it with no proof. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person that belittles the field just so I can make myself look better. And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that either one of the people on the shows were doing that. I'm not at all. But I know that that happens. I know that that happens. That whole one upping, or or pointing fingers because you got to make yourself feel better. I know what happens. I watch it happen. Y'all, I'm on social media. I see what y'all do. Not all of y'all, but some of y'all. I see it. See, right here. I see it. Okay. And I don't want to be that gal. Okay. Um, Again, as far as the test group goes, um, I'm going to give you a medical, for instance. All right. Or dental, actually. I am in the dental field. I'm a dental professional. I have been for 20 years. And I can't tell you how many times I have had one doctor do a treatment plan, and then they come back and it's a different doctor who sees them. Because keep in mind, I work in large practices. I have worked in 20 years with over 150 dentists. Okay. Because I trained with the military and the Red Cross. I have worked in 2 corporate practices, seeing underserved children, and I have worked in an Indian hospital. Okay. And plus 2 private practices, cosmetic dentistry. So rest assured when I tell you I have more experience than I care to admit when it comes to working with doctors. Okay. And I can't tell you how many times one doctor's done a treatment plan, another doctor comes in to do the work on a different day, and they disagree. Now, they're looking at the same x-rays I am. I know how to read an x-ray. I'm fairly well versed in it. I know my shit, okay? But they disagree with the treatment. So they change it. And then the patient comes in a week later and it's a different doctor that sees them. And they disagree with the other 2. Okay? It's a cavity. There's no denying it. There's no denying it. It's right there. It's on the x-ray. It's in the mouth. But you have 3 professionals who trained, who know the same things I do, more so, okay? And they disagree with each other's treatment, how it needs to be done, how aggressive they need to be, how reserved they need to be. So nobody can tell me that personal opinion doesn't play some small role in science. It does. That's personal opinion. When you're talking about different dentists seeing the same tooth and deciding totally different ways how to treat it, the medicine is the science. The cavity in the tooth is the science. The treatment is the science. The different ways to approach it are opinion. So you can't tell me that. I've just seen it too much. Um, I was watching tonight. I actually got off a little bit early, and I heard this best. And y'all know I'm not a big, I love scary movies and stuff. But I mean, I'm not like a ghost hunters person on TV or nothing like that. But I was watching a movie. I was watching the Mothman Prophecies. I've seen it before. It's so this isn't new, but there was a line in there that never resonated with me until now. And it was trying to think how Richard Gere put it. Oh, he was talking on the phone to the weird thing, the Mothman thing, and he said, "Well, what do you look like?" The most brilliant line ever that sums up everything is the Mothman who went by, I think the name Egrid, said, "It depends on who's looking." Yes, it depends on who's looking. When you're talking about going into a a location, I might resonate with one layer of the history, with one person who was there at a certain time. They might feel comfortable speaking to me, but somebody else might come in and a different timeline resonates with them and they feel comfortable speaking to them. Now, we all know that in homes or businesses, you can have many, many, many layers and layers and layers of history. So if everybody is going into a place that's been standing for 150 years and it's been multiple different practices or multiple different businesses or it's been multiple different homeowners and everybody's coming out with the exact same story, that's when you need to question. Just going to say it. That's when you need to question what needs to happen. And you can't look at it as wasted time. If four different psychics go into a location and they all come out with four different stories, don't look at it as wasted time on having to double and triple check all of that to see if it's verifiable. Because any time you're wanting to prove or disprove something, you have to look at all the evidence. You have to, or else it's just a disservice, not only to those you're trying to help, but to yourself. If you're trying to prove something or disprove something to yourself, you can't slide on that kind of stuff. Okay. Um, I thought it was really interesting. I was really pleased with how everybody was able to kind of throw these things out there and just kind of see what stuck. I, I enjoyed I enjoyed greatly the um the volleying of ideas because it made me think. And y'all know I don't ever try to prove myself to anybody else because I don't care. But I do care about the field. And the only way that we are going to progress further is if we think about these things, not just get angry, not just get offended, but if we actually sit down and think and say, hey, you know what? That person had a really good point. I need to think on that. And I could have very easily come back after this thought and been like, you know what? Yeah, I think that might be right. I think everybody needs to agree, but my soul tells me I just can't do that for the very reasons that I stated. So, I hope that's what we all continue to do. I hope we all continue to question both skeptics and psychics and investigators. I hope that's what we all continue to do and do it without being offended or feeling slighted. Do it so that you can further your knowledge, so that you can learn from others. So, in turn, we can all learn and grow together. So, I love the fact that I was made to think just a little outside the box. And I hope this makes you do the same. So, anyway, I'm gonna let y'all go. Take some time for myself now, but love y'all.